Schools across much of the UK look set to close their doors and shut down by the end of the week. The governments in Scotland and Wales have been first to announce their plans as part of the measures to tackle the coronavirus crisis. Boris Johnson says an announcement on the rest of the UK is imminent. Well, let's go to our correspondent Lorna Gordon, who joins me now in Glasgow. This announcement from the First Minister a short time ago.
Yes, Simon. Nicola Sturgeon, Scotland's First Minister, made this announcement within the last hour. It's not entirely unexpected. There have been increasing reports of growing absences in schools, people keeping their children home. Nicola Sturgeon said that this was one of the hardest decisions that the Scottish Government has had to make so far as this virus spreads. But she said that in her view, it was inevitable that schools and nurseries in Scotland will close by the end of the week, and that many schools have lost too many staff to continue.
And my view is that it is now inevitable that we will close schools and nurseries. And my planning assumption now is that schools will close to pupils at the end of this week. And I wanted today to give parents notice of that now. There are two key drivers of that view. First is the science. SAGE, our expert scientific advisors, are examining new advice literally as we speak. I expect that is likely to tell us to close schools. Secondly, we have the reality on the ground. As people do the right thing and follow the advice to self-isolate or to isolate as a household, more and more schools are approaching a point where they have lost too many staff to continue as normal.
And the criticism, as we know, of this move has always been that this means those trying to fight the coronavirus, particularly in hospitals, are going to have children themselves.
Well, yeah, Ms Sturgeon said they're working on the finer details of how this will actually work in practice. They're putting in arrangements to address key issues. She described it as saying from next week schools will have a new purpose. They're looking at how they can mitigate the impact it'll have on people, on pupils who are taking exams. They're looking on how they can support vulnerable students who rely on free school meals. And of course, they are trying to ensure that key workers, doctors, nurses, care workers and other critical staff can continue working through this outbreak. I think perhaps that will mean that some classes in some areas might stay open. It's not entirely clear yet, and clearly it has not been an easy decision to make, but it is not an unexpected one. But the reason behind it, or part of the reason behind it, is to try and slow the spread of the virus. It seems unsustainable to keep the schools open, and in amongst it we get these figures every day, these updates of how many people have tested positive. We are told there are now 220 confirmed cases here in Scotland. That's an increase of 32 from yesterday, and sadly the news that a third person in Scotland has died from COVID-19.
Lorna, thank you for that update. Lorna Gordon there in Glasgow. Let's go to our correspondent Hal Griffith, who's in Cardiff, and the announcement there that the Easter holiday starts early.
Yeah, absolutely. Kirsty Williams, the Welsh Education Minister, was the first within the UK to make an announcement, a statement put out just after 1 o'clock. Let me read you a little bit of what she had to say. She said, "We're bringing forward the Easter break for schools in Wales. Schools across Wales will close from the statutory provision of education at the latest on the 20th of March. So from this Friday." She went on, similar words to Nicola Sturgeon, from next week, schools will have a new purpose. They will support those most in need, including people involved in the immediate response to the coronavirus outbreak. What does that mean? Who will qualify? That is all yet to be cleared up. The first thought, obviously, would go to NHS staff who potentially, both parents, if they're mother and father in the home, might work within the NHS. Handing kids over to grandparents isn't an option for many families at the moment. But there are many other people who will want to know what will happen to them. Would they be able to make use of these facilities? People who are support workers within the community, people at care homes, would they qualify as frontline workers who might be able to make use of this? Now, childcare centres aren't being closed, and that's important because people with very, very young children who've gone back to work in the last couple of years may not affect them. The other vital question is, once you close the schools, how long will it last? I've asked the Welsh Government what this means in terms of timing. The fortnight school holiday is being brought forward, so we know they'll be closed for at least 2 weeks. Will that roll into the planned 2-week Easter break? We don't yet know. That seems likely. But what then? Will schools be back after a month? No one at the moment really knows, and that includes the head teachers and working within the schools and obviously the parents. One other consideration is what will happen to the children who aren't able to go into the schools in terms of checking their health. Is there an argument maybe that they would be better off within the schools? That's what some parents have been saying.
Howell, thank you very much. Howell Griffith there with the latest from Wales. And just hearing that the Education Secretary, Gavin Williamson, is going to be making a statement in the Commons at 5 o'clock this afternoon, and widely predicted to be announcing similar measures for the rest of the UK. So that's 5 o'clock this afternoon. Gavin Williamson, the Education Secretary, making a statement in the House of Commons.